Hi everyone, I'm Anqoinette Crosby here at the Smithsonian National Museum of African Art. Here you'll see the finest examples of traditional and contemporary art from around the African continent. We're also celebrating Women's History Month with a profile on a veteran photographer. We'll share some laughs with a few female comics, and if you're going wild for the impeccable Wakanda Wardrobe, we've got you covered. We'll be checking out what Black Panther's mythical country has done for African fashion. And there's more in this edition of the best art show in the DMV, Articotv, art in your community. Are you looking to be the next Leslie Jones, Mindy Kaling, Melissa McCarthy, or Tiffany Haddish? Then this first segment could have you laughing out loud. It features the DC chapter of Women in Comedy. This is an organization that supports women in the business of making people laugh.
The DC chapter, we're all a bunch of volunteers who do this on the side because we feel passionately about the issue. We're working mostly on connecting women, and so we're trying to get women together, networking, and we're also trying to teach women in the comedy industry how to advocate for themselves. There are a lot of shows that only feature one or two women, or perhaps even no women. And so it's trying to come together and trying to brainstorm ideas for how to increase the visibility of women in comedy in shows in the DC area.
It's really given me a community and a sense of belonging, and it's really helped to shape a large part of my identity that feels like really positive and like a good one.
They are so committed to diversity, so I've spoken on panels just to be an inspiration to young women or just women who want to try stand-up.
So the past year we had 3 events. The first we had was an event that was more of like a conference for women who are in the comedy industry to come and meet each other and learn from folks in a panel discussion about women in the comedy industry, and also learn about how to advocate for themselves on the business side. And then we had an event called Up All Night, and that was in November. And that was a bunch of women getting together and workshopping their ideas in different comedy forms, so sketch and improv and storytelling and stand-up. And then tonight we're doing our final event of the cycle, which is a love letter to myself, and it's a comedy variety show.
Okay. I love you girls. I'm everything. Hi. Everything is recorded. Boomerang this. Make sure you boomerang. All right.
We've got a diverse lineup, different kinds of talents. I'm a stand-up, and I know there's going to be some improv. I know there's going to be a lot of different styles that we're going to see tonight, and we should celebrate them all.
Everybody loves them there. There are more people waiting to talk to my father after church than there are people waiting to talk to the father. It's
being an improviser has been a great experience for me. It's allowed me to have a creative outlet where I can really, I think, be my full self. I think, especially in DC, we spend a lot of time in offices and working, and we work really hard, do a lot of great work, but being able to have a different space and allow myself some creativity has been amazing.
So this year, the plan is again to do our Inside Jokes conference. Last year it was held in August, and we don't have a date certain yet, but probably sometime this summer. People can find out more about Women in Comedy on womenincomedy.org, the Women in Comedy website, or we're also on Facebook and on Instagram.
I think the future for women in comedy is looking really, really, really good. I think that there's been a cultural shift, and I think that for the first time in a very long time, people, whether they like it or not, are having to listen to women. There are so many amazing female comics on the local level, on the national level. It's inspiring to me every day. I think women are killing it, and I think they're going to keep doing that.
I'm out there online dating now because I was just really tired of taking my birth control pills for no reason.
In 1966, Lee Mosley was singing with the New World Singers. Now that's a group that from time to time would perform with renowned songstress Roberta Flack. After finishing a publicity photo session, a photographer introduced her to the darkroom process. Watching the pictures develop right before her eyes was magical. Now, 50 years later, she is still hooked.
My first job was at the Washington Daily News, which has been defunct for years. I think it collapsed in the early 70s or the late 60s. I was writing stories about stuff I cared really nothing about. And the guys who were the photographers just used to laugh and say, oh, you'll never be a photographer, because there were so few black women photographers, or women photographers, period, but especially black ones. But I persisted. I was the first black woman that was hired by the Washington Post in 1974. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed going out, doing the assignment, getting back. You had to process the film after you shot it, get it back. It was like a kind of a pressure, it was a rush, trying to get everything done and meet those deadlines. Some of my photographs have appeared in The Village Voice, Ms. Magazine, Essence Magazine, and I love working for Essence and I love working for The Village Voice. The Village Voice I enjoyed because the assignments were varied and exciting. One in particular I remember was about some skinheads over in this huge park, and I was so scared. I wanted to go home. I didn't want to take any pictures, but it was interesting at the same time. Essence I liked because I was able to take some of my students, because the entire time that I was being a photographer, I was also a teacher. And one of my big things was to make sure that I pass along the skills that I learned to children, particularly in Washington, D.C.'s public schools. And so I would take children with me on my assignments so they could see what it's like to work with a working pro. Some of my most interesting subjects have been Alice Walker, Muhammad Ali, who I thought was extremely handsome. He's the most handsome man that I ever saw in my life, and I just couldn't get over it. Audre Lorde at her home with her family. The picture behind me, I didn't know I was taking a great shot at the time. It was one of those magic moments. I was jockeying for position so that I could get to where I could see Coretta Scott King and Miss Parks. And the other people were just there because I had to use a wide-angle lens, so I couldn't crop it so much. After I looked at my contact sheet, I saw it, I said, wow, look at that. And so I went and blew it up, and then I knew it was classic. The title of it is, What is Coretta Scott King Thinking? Because she looks so pensive. A good photograph to me is something that essentially moves me, even if it's a still life. Mostly I like to photograph people, but it can be anything. It's something that just speaks to me through the color, through the composition, through the balance. Technology has changed or impacted my work because now I'm creating. I'm more of a creator as opposed to a recorder. Recently, I made a piece that was based on a photograph that I took in 1970s, maybe. It was a black and white photograph. It's called Nini's Homework. And what I did was I manipulated that print in Photoshop, and I added some old newspapers that I had from the 60s from the Black Panther Party. I don't think of myself as a trailblazer, quote unquote. I do think about myself as a person who's been what we might call a power of example. When I used to go to work as a teacher, I felt like because I was much older than most of the other people, they were so much younger, but they could see that, well, all old people don't have to be, dragging around, not listless, sick, not interested in anything that's technical. No, this person here is teaching me how to use the computer, how to use the software, how to use the cameras. I don't think my technique has changed. I know my back is a lot happier because I don't have to carry as many cameras and lenses and rolls of film and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, now I carry a card on a chip as opposed to 20 rolls of film. And I think that's terrific. You can't beat that with a stick. One of the things that I'm working on right now is having a 50-year retrospective of my work. It's a little difficult to get a theme for the show because in a half a century I've covered so much stuff. Words of wisdom for the future young people or not so young people. follow your heart. Be true to yourself. Do what interests you, because you can't go wrong with that. Life hasn't always been a bowl of cherries, but I've been happy a lot. And a big part of that is due to the fact that I did what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a photographer. I wanted to be an artist, and that's what I did.
Artists have a remarkable way of thinking outside of the box, like in our next story. Take a 40-foot shipping container and an art nonprofit, and you have a creative combo that just might surprise you. Cultural DC has mobilized local artists to transform the space into a gallery on wheels. We caught up with it in Bruce Monroe Park. Outside, a community kickoff. Inside, an interactive exhibit featuring a sculpture that moves and makes noise.
A little over a year ago, Cultural DC wanted to develop a program where we would bring arts to communities. So we, as a board, decided that we wanted to invest in a mobile art gallery so we could break down barriers to art.
It's got a system of solar panels that will allow it to run completely off the grid. It does have a generator, and it can also plug into shore power. When the architects from Studios Architecture designed this aluminum facade, they did so with the intent to have thousands of LED lights behind it. They designed a DC map, so at night when it lights up, it's really a piece of art in itself.
The show, the installation is comprised of 3 elements: the concrete creature, wooden platforms that people can step on, and the third is an animation video that is projected behind the creature. The mobile gallery, to my opinion, is an amazing project. I've never seen anything like that before.
The James A. Porter Colloquium is now in its 29th year. It gets underway from April 6th through April 8th. This year's discussions are about the legacy and future of abstract art across the diaspora.
This event is free and open to the public in terms of the colloquium proceedings, April 6th and 7th. Whether you have just basic knowledge of art from line to shape to practitioners, we aim to bring a broad public together to take advantage of this art dialogue.
The Smithsonian National Museum of African Art is the first museum to display Kenyan multimedia artist Jim Chuchu's work, his suite of invocation video projects. 2 distinct videos, loop and follow initiation rituals, on display now through July.
This work of art is about the journey to becoming who you are going to be. Traditions, these customs, what have you, these are what shape who other people think you should be, but ultimately you have to accept who you are. And that's what this is about, and I think that's a profound message for any and all to share.
And let your geek flag fly at AwesomeCon. This is DC's answer to Comic-Con. There will be celebs on hand like Cress Williams from Black Lightning. Also check out cosplayers and a 24-hour gaming room. Bring the whole family. It's all going down at the Washington Convention Center. It'll take place March 30th through April 1st. And don't forget to stop by the WHUT booth and say hello. It seems the whole world has gone crazy for the movie Black Panther, me included. It's broken one box office record after another, earning more than $1 billion. Well, we couldn't let the moment pass without getting in on some of that superhero action. First, meet Jesse J. Holland, a comic book lover from way back. Jesse got the chance of a lifetime. Marvel Comics asked him to write the companion novel to the Black Panther blockbuster. And rest assured, he did not turn them down.
Actually, the very first thing I did is I called my wife. And the reason why I called my wife is because a year before, my second book had come out, The Invisibles, The Untold Story of African American Slaves in the White House. And that book took me 7 years to write. So I promised my wife when I finished The Invisibles that I wasn't going to write anything else for a while. I was going to be completely home focused. But then Marvel called. And I said, I called my wife and said, honey, I know I promised that I was not going to write anything else for 2 more years, but it's Marvel. And she was like, I understand, go for it. They were looking for 2 things. They were looking for someone who could write history because the novel is the origin story. And they were also looking for someone who could write on deadline. So in my real life, I'm a journalist. And if there's one thing journalists know, is deadlines. I didn't have time to be excited. I had to get to work.
Panic first.
There was a slight amount of panic. And also the Black Panther is such an iconic character that you don't want to mess it up. The Black Panther was created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee in 1966. And the original 1966 origin, that origin stayed the exact same until 2005, when Marvel hired Reginald Hudlin as the writer of the Black Panther. So Reginald Hudlin did the first update of that 1966 origin. What Marvel was looking for was an update of the 2005 origin. So I had a framework to follow. So there are original characters, there's some new angles. So if you read the comic book, you would still find out new things in the book because I took that story and expanded it and included new locations. I felt if the King of Wakanda was ever going to come to America, there are two places that he would definitely go. The Smithsonian African Art Museum, because I opened the book with him opening up the Wakandan exhibit in the Smithsonian African Art Museum, and then he would go right across the mall to the Smithsonian Black History and Culture Museum. So I figured that would be the logical place for the story to start.
So what things, because we want people to go out and buy the book,
right.
So what things are in the book that maybe the movie left out, and why should people pick up the book and read it?
Whether you've seen the movie or not, the great thing about the novel is that you'll get some background on some of the characters you're going to see in the movie. So if you really want to know why the Dora Mahali exists, they mention it briefly in the movie, but I go into their entire existence, how they were created. You get to know more about who Shuri is and why she is so smart. They talk about Ramonda, his mother, the Angela Bassett character, but she has a history all of her own outside of what you saw in the movie.
Give us a tidbit.
For example, Ramonda's not T'Challa's mother. That's his stepmother.
That's huge.
That's his
That's
stepmother.
huge.
Exactly. So if you
didn't bury the lead there.
The stories are not limited to just the screen. You can go back and read the comic book. You can read what Ta-Nehisi Coates is doing in the current comic book. You can pick up the novel and you'll see the same characters. They might be slightly different interpretations, but the character work for this comic book is so strong that you'll recognize the characters at every step.
Did you even think?
The book is sold out pretty much everywhere. I've actually gone through my entire personal stash of this novel. I don't have any books left. My parents didn't get a copy of it. They're actually working on not an ebook, but a audio presentation where they're hiring actors to play the parts and say the dialogue that's in the book. And so I got a chance to go out and play one of the characters that I created for the audio production.
Are there things that you wish that the movie hadn't changed that you had written in the book?
Well, I did have this great scene in the book where T'Challa goes to the ancestral lands and meets not only his father, but he meets the Panther God, which they didn't do in the movie. So when they started that scene, I was like, oh my God, he got my scene on screen, Oh man, they didn't do it. But I mean, I've seen the movie now 3 times, and I'm going to see it for a 4th. The story that Ryan Coogler crafted on screen, the cinematography, the character acting, it's all fabulous.
Talking about T'Challa and Killmonger not being able to coexist, in your mind, is it something that we can look at what's going on today?
You can't help but draw parallels between T'Challa and Eric Killmonger and the relationship between African Americans and Africans. There are a lot of African Americans who sympathize with Eric Killmonger, who #Killmonger was right. But there are also a lot of Africans who sympathize with T'Challa as well. And so this movie is a great starting point for a discussion of the 400-year relationship between Africa and the United States. And that's one of the great things about really, really good characters. They transcend the printed page, they transcend the silver screen, and we can apply them to our own lives and say, hey, how can we make things better?
Besides outstanding ticket sales, Black Panther's influence has created a fashion frenzy. The costumes combine traditional, tech, and superb tailoring to these tribal threads. The film celebrates ethnic dress from throughout Africa.
Grace Ofari is the owner of True Face by Grace. As she will attest, the film has been a boon for her business.
Before the Black Panther movie, actually got a lot of business. People anticipated, like people go into the premiere. We sell True Face designs. So 80% of our products are designed by us, and then the 20 is created from all over the world, mostly from African countries. So we have accessories, we have purses, we have bracelets, necklaces, and apparel we just add into it. So we have capes and bibs made out of the African cloth, the Ankara print. We've had a lot of people come to us to buy similar pieces that were in the Black Panther. We've had people, like especially the choker I'm wearing is called the Ndimbele choker. It's from South Africa. It's not my design, it's a cultural piece from South Africa that has been there. It's used for weddings, but because a similar piece was in the Black Panther, it got us a lot of business because our pieces were similar to what was shown in there, just show-stopping, unique pieces, statement pieces that were just amazing. I mean, the African print, everything African print, African design is now off the chain. African print high-low cape. So it's a cape that is very versatile, so it can be worn in different ways. It can be made into a blazer. It can be made as a cover-up, as a bathing suit. You could wear it anywhere you want. So you can see I'm wearing it to the side, but you can also wear it to the front. You could tie it to the back. We have them made with buttons, so people can choose how, what they want to order. This is made out of strips of Ankara fabric. Ankara is the African print cloth. It's 100% cotton. It's very vibrant. It comes in different prints and colors. So this is made out of strips of Ankara fabric. So these are strips and cut into pieces and all pieced together. Everybody is contacting us to purchase, to find out if pieces can be made for them. So it's not just Black people, it's everybody who really loved the movie. People from all nationalities, people that went to the movie that admired the culture and the ethnicity and the fashion. One of my favorite pieces or design in the movie was Okoye's outfit, the general. Her warrior outfit, I think was really, really, really beautiful. Our pieces are for the bold woman who likes to make a statement, who like to be seen, show-stopping pieces that are unique and authentic, straight from Africa. And in fact, we have some models here who are wearing some of our beautiful pieces.
A special thanks to the Smithsonian National Museum of African Art staff for their assistance. And since some of today's program was inspired by the movie Black Panther, well, we thought we'd like to end the show with a look at this Black Panther limited edition production car, the 2018 LC500 Inspiration Series by Lexus. This $100,000 car is a real-life interpretation of the vehicle in the movie. Beautifully designed, it has a powertrain boosted with vibranium, which of course can only be found in Black Panther's home, Wakanda. Well, that's going to do it for me. I'm going to take a ride in this fabulous car. I'm Anqoinette Crosby, Wakanda forever, and always remember to follow your art.
This program was produced by WHUT, Howard University Television, and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.